What I got to realize today is that no matter how much you're willing to understand what is going on in yourself, you'll still need to figure it out in the moment. Because when you got some struggles with certain things and it's just not easy to solve it anytime, just like a good sleep routine, when you're struggling with it and you are very much clear about the reasons why it's not working out and you're still in old patterns, then yeah, it's sure that you might not get ahead because you're not actively changing something about the situation. But once you understood and saw that you gotta do some changes and you make those and you are thinking that you're moving ahead and you're in a great spot, as you also like feel good about yourself when starting to recognize more and more and develop in all this. But when the moment arrives you'll where you get the hit of life, with which it shows you how far you're still off, how much further you still have to go. I like those Beatles, but yeah, they are all over the place. So yeah, just go where you want. This little guy, oh my god. Yeah, I lost the point because of you. Know what you're doing here? God, no. Where was I caught up? Can't you even tell me where I wanted to head with this? Yeah, I'll remember. No, I know it. The thing I was trying to say is that when life plays something on you, even though you thought you might be in a position where you got to understand much about yourself and you've moved ahead from old patterns, there's like a moment where you're being thrown at an sort of realization state that hasn't come up yet, and it's like another level of your own personal development and another opportunity or like test from life in which it just wants to see if you can still persist and go after the the thing you want to achieve by looking deeper down into the actual like background of that whole reasoning why you're struggling with something or why you want to get ahead of a certain topic. It's like a stress test. It Life is testing your resistance by showing you new options or parts and outcomes you haven't been able to pre-calculate. So these are not like these should not be looked at like things that like roadblocks that are where you're unable to move ahead of them. They're also big parts in the whole like thing that is actually pointing at you, which you can grasp, which you can like try to get closer to, once you're going one more step, closer to the evidence of knowing what the reason behind something specific is. And when we come back to the example of myself from my own experience, seeing that even though I'm doing everything to sleep best and still not being able to get enough sleep, is just like such a moment where I see that this roadblock is the new kind of level, the new kind of test. But every time I get ahead of such a problem, of such a struggle, of and every time I get a conclusion out of it, a clear insight with which I can work, I can move further. And when there's another roadblock coming in the next step, I know that I won't have to go back to the old parts unless I was not 100% sure, or I can't be 100% sure what the actual reason behind it is. And it can also be a possibility that I'm missing out on something. Because maybe I know, or say to myself, I'm in a position where I'm very much clear about that this is not the reason why I can't sleep, and I've tried out everything, and now I'm stuck, and I I'm just I'm just left behind with this. I don't think this is the approach I want to go after, because I feel like I can go deeper down these levels, and the more I understand and the more I take from these levels that I've already gone through, the more I can look at them as a checkpoint I've already got to. And it doesn't matter if I'll move ahead or if I want to go back to see insights from the previous checkpoints, I can go to them because I've already checked them. I've already seen these times, and therefore I'm able to get back to them and get insights from them. And I can jump back to points that are in more that have come in the future after previous ones, and won't have to spend the time wrapping my head around these new kind of stages once again, because I've already been there. And whenever I'm getting into a new stage, into a new kind of field from which on I will have to move out of, as I wanted to, because I don't want to stay stuck in that certain field, because it's all about solving something. These stages are coming up from the actual pain point of having a problem and wanting it to be solved. And when not being solved, how should the problem then, like, how should the problem then even be seen as something that's able to be solved? And what I see by having a specific struggle where I've been trying out many different things and many have helped, when other things are coming back to tell me, yeah, you gotta do that as well to make some changes. What this kind of situation is telling me, that I shall better not be too convinced that the current situation as I've laid it out is the one with which I'll be able to succeed. And I was never kind of in such a determined state where I'm actually saying that now I've passed that certain thing and I can lean back on that. But when a certain strain of a situation is impacting on oneself over a specific amount of time, and you've been drained very much from that kind of topic, and you do make movement, you do make development, and you start to realize things, you start to also get into a position, I think, where you are more vulnerable to expose yourself to the false reality of progress. And that is like a thing that has to be looked at with a closer in a closer way, because attracting that false reality of not being there yet is an vulnerability that consists of so much emotional determination that the actual rational part of moving towards the another problem that you gotta solve, another roadblock you gotta move away to or get ahead of, is limited. The amount of clarity somehow gets lost in the excitement of seemingly knowing where the current situation is heading you, and that it is going into the good direction, into the right direction. And you can also be on the right direction, on the right path already, and you can also be excited and about that and be happy about the changes you've already made, as I am as well, with all the kind of insights I got from why I'm not able to sleep and the adjustments I already did. But seeing oneself being thrown back a few steps because some other impact be might have already came back or hit you anew, which you didn't pre-calculate, is like a thing that takes up quite some space in myself for now, in this moment. Just like the insects take so much place on my body as well at the moment. What I see, or why I think some aspects of development get like decelerated, are coming from the factors from external impacts. When there's a specific amount of an external impact hitting you or getting at you in a pace where you're in such an stage of solving a specific thing for someone else, with someone else, when you're pursuing things for someone else, with someone else, then the amount of insights I might have taken before is like cut down in that moment, as there's no space no more to actually see the whole picture as it was taken up to a certain amount from these external factors, which are great to have because that shows you that you are in the position again to be open enough to let other things take more space in you and you don't feel bad about that. Because I didn't feel bad yesterday when I was talking for hours with my mom trying to help her, or was talking another 1.5 hours with a good friend of mine because he's struggling as well, and we gotta find a solution for our like business ideas as well. And I felt energized enough to get ahead of all that, but I committed quite some energy in it. And I think that was another reason, or the main reason, why I wasn't able to get back the things I needed for myself at the end of the day. And that was like a quiet end, from that day, on which I've since a long time started to why always so close? Do you want to get into my eyes? What's your plan? I ain't a flower. Get off me. Yeah, you can't be there. Yeah, it's also like funny to see it, to see how these external factors, as I was just talking about it, having so much impact on oneself, and you eventually start like even take so much for granted just because you're in a vulnerable state, so that you suddenly shift things in your perception into a direction where you just start to add these impacts to the reason why you are feeling like that is in the moment. Oh, I feel like that, and for sure something like that has to happen. Oh, I was feeling drained at the moment and been talking about how I didn't sleep good yesterday, and oh, all of a sudden a bee is almost in my eye. I could look at this like that, or I could just take it as something. Okay, I'm just exposing myself now, because now she's back again. I hear her, but I just don't care. It's not up to me. I'm coming in her environment, and that's why she gotta save it. As yesterday there was grass that high, so much natural habitat, but today it got all cut down. That's why I'm almost at the same spot. And as you can see, things happen. Things happen that you rather try to influence on a good way, but you just don't have in your hand when you're certainly out of balance. And that being out of balance means so much more than just not being able to get specific things done, but also that you don't see things that clear no more. And just like it happened before here, I didn't delete my last recordings on my SD card, and as I'm doing long videos, they take up quite some space, and there wasn't enough space to record it all. So I came back here now because I don't want it to just like stop the video with all the last 10 minutes from it. So what the essence was trying to say is that no matter what kind of position or day is currently impacting oneself, and no matter how good or bad I am feeling about what the situation is, it is always being concluded by factors I am able to get insight. I'm able to see deeper down into whenever I'm ready enough to show myself that I can take a step back, zoom more out, and keep an emotional and rational state in in an in like an intertwined state of mind where it's not being like thrown around with all sorts of random thoughts and actions, but actually being like uh, focused on considering a solution and an insight. And whenever I'm getting into a kind of position where either the one side, let's say the negative side of things are being shown to me, or it's being overly positive, then some sort of point has to come that breaks it down. And I think that is like a very big thing to also keep an eye on, as this shall not be how life is being operated. Because, yeah, you should be in waves. You should live and be able to live life in waves, but always being like coming from these still waters up to these immensely tsunami like waves, and which crush it all down, and then draining all the water out of that big big bucket that's called your life, is not the so it's that doesn't make sense in my eyes. There's a space in between when in which you can like flourish actually, and be happy about, and been able to manage so much more about how you are just like going through it. So seeing when the good things are taking up places in oneself in an in a very straight incline where it's almost like things are coming out of nowhere in such a positive way that you're so excited about how you're able to manage all these different kind of things at once because you got back the energies, because things in life changed, you developed yourself or seen that what you gotta do to make some changes about yourself, and all of a sudden you're able to move ahead so much faster and clearer. But this whole incline comes with so much rush that the possibility of having a fall down is much higher. And it's also okay to just feel that kind of positive thing, and you should always try to live it as well and not suppress it and try to stay down on it only because it might have an you might have a fallback from all that positive things. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that whenever you're going up so high, the likelihood of seeing, or like not being able to see a certain impact that might bring you down is higher, because it's only about how much you're able to perceive in the moment where you are being all over the place, being very much into it. Because when there's the moment where you somehow lose your clarity about the whole situation, because many things take over you, the whole spectrum of your conscious being are being like shrunken down, as there's only limited space of things you can actually consciously like consider and take into action. And everything that's getting out of that range, which might have been a necessary insight for you to not have a fallback, then all of the sudden are being not seen because there's no space. Just like my SD card had no space to capture on more video. So I had to get there, being happy I'm done, but had to come back. That was the exact thing I'm talking about. That having such a fallback, it's just like in this situation, as you can see, it's good metaphor. So what I'll be trying to adapt from, or get to see from these high points in life that come from certain developing states or from certain reasons that can be determined by external or internal factors. So where you were able to get into a new state of mind, into a new stage of life, whenever these are coming, seeing the whole field, knowing what you gotta need in that certain situation, in that exact moment where you've gone through it all in, is so crucial. Because, for example, when I'm in a very energized state, as I was, for example, yesterday, and I'm coming up with solutions for others and trying to help others and connect things in between and build things out and talk a lot and be there for someone else, and the whole day and the whole things you were trying to do then comes to an end, as you were still trying to fit all in between, and at the end of the day not being able to get down and relax and actually initiate the state of getting to rest now, what can be a big turning point to not get enough good rest. So, and also on the exact opposite, it could be the same when having too little, when not seeing enough day of light in every kind of regard, with being active, with doing something, with approaching life, with feeling life, with actually interacting with life. When not having enough of this kind of interaction, no matter if it's with nature or with people, or no matter what kind of things you could consider having like action with, when there's no action being done, not having enough action, staying in that kind of field, in that monotony, is such an I think this comes back to the same outcome of not getting the things you need to actually move ahead and get the results you would feel happy about then. Because I was overstraining myself yesterday, not getting to rest, not initiating the resting state before I was going to sleep. And what did I get? Bad sleep, bad rest, because no initiation. There was big contrast, and no big contrast is working out. It's a fluid state. We can't just say, okay, now we have the biggest bucket of life and we just empty it down on life, and that is a state of 0 and 1, and now you're wet when it hits you and before you weren't. No, it's not like that. This is like a wave. And when it's not the biggest kind of wave that's coming down on you, then this small wave is going to touch your feet first, and you gotta move into that. But yeah, for sure, you can also like to jump down in some waters. It's also a different kind of field, but it's a punctuated one. It's not in an overall situation. And you can adapt to how you live life the way you want to, but seeing that some certain contrasts of life are not as good for you as others, I think is quite a strength you can have. So I will try to initiate contrast. I will try to preserve the states where I'm having the contrast in not a too kind of direct way. It should always have this fluidity in it. It should always be an sort of movement that's not coming from 0 to 1, but in a state in between, because that is life, that is how we are, that is what being humane is. And yeah, just thinking about the solution of being here and being in the next moment as well, just as much as you are in that exact moment you are in now. Because when you're able to see ahead, not being blurred out from your vision and your movements, is a very big insight and clarity that determines how your next steps are going to be made, when the ones you're doing in the moment are the ones that are paving the way you go. And seeing a little bit further, having still space to see that little bit further ahead of you, doesn't need to be too far, because then you'll miss out on where you're at the moment, where your steps are leading you. But this little tiny bit to see and morph yourself into this development, I think is very, very important. So I'm quite happy with that now. And yeah, I think the recording got made, and yeah, I'm ending it twice. You'll only see it once, but doesn't matter. Wish you all the best, and see you very soon.